The United States just pulled off one of the most significant maritime seizures in recent memory, intercepting an Iranian cargo vessel loaded with weapons, ammunition, and materials that were never supposed to reach their destination. But here's where things get interesting. Instead of going quiet, instead of backing down, Iran did something that caught analysts completely off guard. Tehran started playing new cards. Cards that reveal just how far their military strategy has evolved and just how dangerous this game has become. If you think this is just another headline about Middle East tensions, you are about to realize this story goes much deeper than that. One of the most consequential developments in the ongoing standoff between the United States and Iran. A story that connects weapon smuggling, battlefield innovation, regional proxy warfare, and a major shift in how Tehran is choosing to project its power across the Middle East and beyond. Over the past several years, the United States Navy has been conducting a steady campaign of maritime interdictions, seizing vessels suspected of carrying Iranian weapons to conflict zones including Yemen, Iraq, and Somalia. But the most recent seizure has escalated the stakes dramatically, and Iran's response has not been silence. It has been a calculated, deliberate show of military capability designed to send a message loud and clear. We have options you have not seen yet. So today, we are going to walk through exactly what was seized, why it matters, how Iran is responding, and what this entire situation tells us about the future of conflict in one of the world's most volatile regions. Stay with us, because every part of this story connects to something bigger. The seizure. What the U.S. Navy found. The United States Navy, operating under the authority of the Fifth Fleet in the Gulf of Oman and surrounding waters, intercepted a stateless vessel, meaning a ship flying no national flag, a common tactic used to obscure origin and destination. On board, naval personnel discovered an arsenal that read like a military supply catalog. Among the cargo were advanced anti-tank missiles, thousands of rounds of ammunition, components for ballistic missiles, and, perhaps most alarmingly, parts associated with unmanned aerial vehicle production. In other words, drone technology. This was not a small shipment. This was a coordinated logistics operation, and it was headed somewhere with a purpose. The U.S. Central Command confirmed that the weapons matched a pattern consistent with Iranian origin, the same types of weapons previously traced to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, known as the IRGC, which functions as Iran's most powerful military force and the primary engine behind its regional proxy network. Under international maritime law and United Nations Security Council resolutions, particularly those related to Yemen and the arms embargo against the Houthis, the United States has legal standing to intercept such shipments. But legality and geopolitical consequence are two very different things, and Iran knows that. Why this seizure is different. Arms seizures in this region are not new. The U.S. Navy has been conducting them for years. So why is this one drawing so much attention? Because of the timing, because of the contents, and because of what Iran did next. The timing of this seizure comes at a moment when Houthi forces in Yemen, who are openly backed by Iran, have been conducting some of the most aggressive maritime attacks in the Red Sea in recent history, targeting commercial shipping lanes and even vessels with ties to Western interests. These attacks have directly disrupted global trade, forcing shipping companies to reroute around the Cape of Good Hope, adding days and enormous costs to international supply chains. The weapons found on the intercepted vessel were not defensive tools. Anti-tank missiles and ballistic missile components are offensive weapons. Drone parts are force multipliers. These materials, had they reached their destination, would have meaningfully upgraded the capability of whichever group received them. That is the calculation Washington made, and that is why this seizure was not treated as routine. Iran's response. The new cards now here is where the story takes a sharp turn. When confronted with previous seizures, Iran typically responded with diplomatic denials, carefully worded statements from the foreign ministry, and occasional verbal threats. The pattern was predictable, but this time, Tehran chose a different path. Rather than denying involvement or retreating into diplomatic language, Iranian military officials and state media began doing something deliberate. They started showcasing capabilities. And those capabilities deserve serious attention. Drone warfare, Iran's most powerful card. The first card Tehran is showing is its drone program, and it is arguably the most significant military development to come out of Iran in the past decade. Iran has spent years developing an indigenous drone industry, and the results are now on full display. The Shahed 136, a loitering munition, often called a kamikaze drone, has become notorious on the global stage, having been deployed in conflicts far beyond Iran's borders. These drones are cheap to produce, difficult to detect on radar due to their small profile, and devastating when deployed in swarms against targets, including military infrastructure and energy facilities. What makes Iran's drone capability especially alarming is the doctrine behind it: saturation attacks. The strategy is to launch so many drones simultaneously that even sophisticated air defense systems become overwhelmed. No air defense system, no matter how advanced, has an unlimited number of interceptor missiles. Iran has essentially found a way to bankrupt air defenses, mathematically flooding the zone until something gets through. The components found on the intercepted vessel included parts consistent with this exact kind of production. Iran was not just shipping weapons, it was shipping the means to build a drone manufacturing ecosystem closer to the front lines. Ballistic missile upgrades. The second card Iran is showing is its ballistic missile program, and recent tests and deployments have revealed significant upgrades in both range and precision. Iran now possesses one of the largest and most diverse ballistic missile arsenals in the Middle East. But what has changed recently is accuracy. For years, Iranian missiles were considered area weapons, capable of hitting a general region but not a specific target. That has changed. Iran has been integrating guidance systems that substantially improve terminal accuracy, meaning missiles can now be directed at specific buildings, specific runways, specific ships. In the wake of the cargo seizure, Iranian state television broadcast footage of missile tests a clear signal. The message was straightforward. These are not the same missiles from 10 years ago. These are precision instruments, and we have them pointed in directions that matter. The proxy network, Iran's force multiplier. The third card, and perhaps the most strategically significant, is Iran's regional proxy network. This is the architecture that makes every other capability exponentially more dangerous. Tehran has spent decades cultivating, arming, training, and financing a network of non-state actors across the Middle East. Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, the Popular Mobilization Forces in Iraq, various armed factions in Syria. Together, these groups constitute what Iranian strategists call the axis of resistance, and they function as a distributed military force that gives Iran the ability to project power without ever officially going to war. This is the core genius and the core danger of Iran's strategy. When the U.S. seizes an Iranian cargo ship, Iran does not respond by firing Iranian missiles from Iranian soil. Instead, a proxy group launches an attack somewhere that creates pressure, sends a message, and forces a response, all while Iran maintains official deniability. The Houthis attacking Red Sea shipping, Hezbollah launching projectiles toward northern Israel, militia groups in Iraq targeting U.S. military positions. These are not coincidences. They are coordinated expressions of a single strategic vision, and the weapons on that seized cargo ship were the fuel that powers this entire machine. The failure of Russian tactics and the human cost of meat assaults. One of the most striking and frankly disturbing elements of this conflict has been Russia's repeated use of what battlefield observers and Ukrainian soldiers have termed meat assaults, mass infantry attacks with little to no armored support, conducted in waves, with the apparent expectation that sheer numbers will overwhelm Ukrainian defensive positions. These tactics have resulted in catastrophic Russian losses. In sectors like Avdiivka, Bakhmut, Vuhledar, and more recently, Pokrovsk and Kurakhov, Russian infantry units have been sent forward in groups, often without adequate reconnaissance, fire support, or coordination, directly into prepared Ukrainian defensive lines equipped with drones, mines, and interlocking fields of fire. Military analysts have pointed to several reasons why Russia continues to employ these tactics despite their staggering human cost. First, Russia has a manpower model that prioritizes replacement over quality. Mobilized men are given minimal training and sent to the front as quickly as possible. This results in poorly trained soldiers making predictable tactical decisions that Ukrainian defenders can exploit. Second, Russian military culture at the command level has historically rewarded the capture of territorial objectives regardless of cost, meaning commanders continue to order frontal assaults even when those assaults are visibly failing. The result is that Russia is burning through its mobilized manpower at an extraordinary rate. According to multiple Western intelligence assessments, Russia is recruiting approximately 25,000 to 30,000 new soldiers per month just to maintain its current force levels, a figure that itself speaks to the scale of attrition it is absorbing. Mines. The silent equalizer. One of the least discussed but most consequential elements of this conflict is the extensive use of landmines and anti-vehicle mines across the Ukrainian theater of war. Ukraine has laid one of the most extensive minefields in modern military history along its defensive lines, and these mines have had a devastating effect on Russian armored and mechanized assaults. During Russia's large-scale armor offensives in the early phases of the war, and again during attempted breakthroughs in subsequent periods, armored columns ran directly into minefields that immobilized lead vehicles, caused follow-on vehicles to bunch up, and made the entire formation a target for Ukrainian artillery and drones. The combination of mines, drones, and artillery has made Russian armored assault practically suicidal in well-defended sectors. The use of anti-personnel mines has also significantly complicated Russian infantry movements. particularly at night, and has contributed to a substantial portion of the overall casualty figures. This is a deeply uncomfortable dimension of the conflict because mines continue to kill and maim long after the fighting moves elsewhere. But as a military instrument in the hands of a defending force, they have proven extraordinarily effective. Electronic warfare, the invisible battle. Alongside the physical battlefield, there is an electronic battlefield that is equally fierce and equally consequential. Electronic warfare, the use of systems that jam, spoof, intercept, or disrupt enemy communications and sensor systems, has been a defining feature of this conflict. Both sides have invested heavily in electronic warfare capabilities, but Ukraine has received significant Western assistance in this domain. GPS jamming, drone signal disruption, and communication intercepts have all played important roles. Ukraine's ability to intercept Russian military communications has provided tactical intelligence that has directly contributed to targeting decisions, allowing Ukrainian forces to strike Russian command gatherings, logistics meetings, and troop concentrations with remarkable precision. Russia has also used electronic warfare to disrupt Ukrainian drones, and there is a constant back-and-forth technological adaptation between the two sides. Ukraine has responded to Russian jamming by developing fiber-optic guided drones that cannot be jammed at all. The guidance signal runs through a physical wire, making electronic countermeasures irrelevant. This innovation has already begun appearing on the battlefield and represents the next evolution in drone warfare. The strategic picture, attrition, is working. Stepping back from the tactical details, it is important to understand the broader strategic context. Ukraine's stated and actual military strategy has evolved significantly over the course of the conflict. After initial defensive success and the liberation of significant territory in 2022, Ukraine found that large-scale offensive operations against prepared Russian positions were extremely costly and difficult. The strategy that has emerged, partly by design and partly by necessity, is a grinding war of attrition, focused on destroying Russian combat power faster than it can be regenerated. Every soldier killed, every tank destroyed, every ammunition depot blown up, and every command post eliminated degrades Russia's ability to sustain offensive operations and ultimately to hold the territory it has seized. Western military analysts, including those at the Royal United Services Institute and the Institute for the Study of War, have noted that Russia's military-industrial capacity, while significant, is under enormous strain. Sanctions have limited Russia's access to critical semiconductors and precision manufacturing components. Tank production, while accelerated, relies heavily on refurbishing older Soviet-era stocks. Artillery barrel burnout rates are extremely high, and replacement is becoming a visible constraint on Russian fire missions. The combination of battlefield attrition and economic industrial pressure is designed to reach a breaking point, a moment when Russia's ability to sustain its current level of military operations collapses faster than political decisions can reverse it. So, what is obliterating Russian troops at a record pace in Ukraine? It is not one single weapon or one single tactic. It is a convergence. FPV drones deployed in industrial quantities, precision Western artillery systems, HIMARS and cruise missiles disrupting logistics, extensive minefields neutralizing armored assault, electronic warfare providing intelligence advantages, and the catastrophic human cost of mass infantry tactics against prepared defenses. The battlefield of Ukraine in 2024 and 2025 has become one of the most lethal environments for conventional military forces ever recorded in modern warfare. The lessons being learned here about drone warfare, about electronic warfare, about the limits of mass manpower without quality training are already reshaping military doctrine in capitals around the world. What happens next depends on political will, industrial capacity, and the decisions made in Washington, Brussels, Moscow, and Kyiv. But on the battlefield itself, the data tells a clear and sobering story. The cost of this war for Russia is historic, and it is rising. If you found this video informative and valuable, please hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who want to understand what is actually happening in the world. And if you're not subscribed yet, now is the time. We cover these developments consistently and in depth, and there is a lot more coming. Hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and we will see you in the next one.